Well, one of the objectives in the course was to learn to use different online tools. So some of what was really helpful in the course was that the instructor didn't come in as kind of an expert, but came in and fumbled through some of the tools as if they were learning it alongside us. And so that helped me as a learner be more comfortable with learning things, making mistakes through things, and not having to be perfect in producing a project.
They definitely fit the course objectives in terms of just learning the material, because we had quizzes online and suggested practice problems and that sort of thing. They definitely did help me learn what I needed to learn, but the way the course was structured, all of the homework was due at the end. So I took it twice, because the first time I waited until the end to do all the homework. And so then I crammed everything in and didn't learn what I was supposed to and just didn't do it right. But the second time, when I was more motivated and figured out how to kind of do the homework assignments on time, they definitely helped, and they were very much pertaining to like the exams.
Collaborating in the online space was tricky because we had to think about it in a number of different steps. And so something that we did in the class that I thought was really helpful was we broke off into smaller groups, and we had some group discussion in the smaller group, and then we would come back into a larger group with the full class and then have a conversation that it felt much more meaningful, because in a small group we were safer. We could, I don't know, ask some questions that maybe we weren't comfortable asking in the larger group, and we just had richer, larger group conversations once everybody got more comfortable in a smaller group. The instructor was typically, or I should say generally, aware of when we were meeting as small groups and had access to the spaces we were meeting. So sometimes the instructor would join us in our discussions, or at least be present while we were discussing. Of course, when we met as a full class online, the instructor then was present and was engaged. And also in our small groups, we typically would report back to the instructor some of what came out of our small group discussion. So then when we got back into the large group, the instructor had some idea. If they were not able to be present when we met as a small group, they had some idea of what we talked about, or at least where we positioned ourselves as a small group.
We weren't really encouraged to collaborate with our classmates in this course. There wasn't really any facilitation of that. We could meet with other students. We had a list of all the students in the course, and I think we were able to maybe start a discussion and say, okay, do you want to meet? We have a study group or something like that, but that was all on our own. I feel like the collaboration probably didn't happen as much because the students, either maybe they procrastinated like me, or maybe they just were afraid to go and try and reach out on their own. And I think that when you're in a face-to-face class, you sit next to somebody, you say, hey, what does this mean? Hey, what does that mean? Do you get this? And it's a lot easier to just strike up conversation, whereas starting a whole conversation or in a forum or whatever kind of takes more effort. It's sort of putting yourself out there and meeting up outside of class, and it just takes more work. I think that if maybe they were to make meeting outside of class, or even meeting online, like a Google Chat kind of thing, some sort of requirement, even a couple times throughout the semester, it would be a lot easier and would be great to facilitate student interaction.
It helped me think differently about my face-to-face classes. When you sit in class face-to-face, even if people don't talk, they don't vocalize, you can read body language, you can read their faces, and that tells you their level of engagement. That's tough to do online. And so online, I had to think differently about whether people were engaged or not. Not to assume that just because someone didn't comment online, they didn't check in. I found myself having to defend myself online because I checked into the online space sometimes multiple times a day, but I wouldn't always comment. And then I would have group members or class members suggest that maybe I wasn't paying attention. I just didn't comment. And so it made me think about then how I could engage differently. it also made me think a little bit about some of the differences between face-to-face and online engagement. If you're sitting in class face-to-face with people, you can say, someone can speak for 2 minutes, and you can say, oh yeah, I think that's a good idea, and you participated. But if you go online and someone has written 3 paragraphs and you write 1 line, it can look like you didn't really participate. So I had to get more comfortable with standing by my 1 line.
The main advantage I see to online classes structured as this one was that you could do the homework and the assignments on your own time, and you could schedule it, work it in with your schedule. However, that's also a detriment if you aren't self-motivated and you can't work with that type of system as easily.
I do enjoy the online experience. I think that there are many things that can be learned through the online experience. One of the things I enjoy most about the online experience, as I've had it, is the invitation or the encouragement to think about how I engage online differently than face-to-face. And I think that that's really important. I think that's a really important part of the online experience, to remember that there are many things that can be replicated, but the whole thing can't be replicated. So it's different. And to, kind of enjoy that difference.